So we will call the June 12th, 2024 meeting of the Police Records Management Oversight Committee to order, and then we'll roll call, please.
Berlin,
Here.
Sunrise,
Here.
Brands, Maranowicz, Martinovich,
Here.
McPherson,
Here.
Mendrick,
Eric Swanson here for Under Sheriff Moore on behalf of Sheriff Mendrick.
Ritz,
Here.
Solera,
Here.
Senate,
Here.
Zerwin.
Are here. All right. No chairman's remarks. Bob sends his regrets. He's appearing at the State Attorney's Conference, which is why I'm here in his stead. So without that, no public comment, I take it?
No.
All right. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of March 13th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments, questions, changes needed? All right, being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, things add up. All right, now we'll move on to our discussion items. Take it, you want to go ahead?
Yeah,
Anthony?
thank you, Madam Chair. Let me, if you don't mind, can we take them all?
Together.
Together,
That's
yeah,
fine.
because they kind of overlap and one impacts the other. So I think probably makes sense for us to talk about them all, but I'll make sure I go through them all. So the first thing I want to say is that we had hoped to come to the board with a little more meat, a little more details for you guys to review. We actually hope to have some direction for Hexagon. We're working with them to renegotiate our existing terms of our contract to address concerns that some of the consortium members have made about what happens if an agency leaves, how impacted will our budget be. So Linda, Zerwin, and I for the CAD side, and me for the RMS side, have been working with Hexagon to come up with a few different options, some solutions to bring that cost down and minimize the impact to the consortium. We've made a lot of progress. I think that we're close to recommending some changes to this board that make sense and will help the members overall, but we're not quite there. And that's why we were unable to present something more in writing to you. In September, we are requesting a special call for two reasons. One, the big reason is we need to present our budget for FY 2025. And then in September for our quarterly meeting, get your approval. So in August, we'll present the budget, you'll evaluate it, give us feedback, and then we'll come back to you in September for official approval like we do every year. In previous years, we've actually presented in June with approval, I think in July no, it's still September. This year, we're just not ready because we're still negotiating with Hexagon, trying to figure out where we're going to be next year. So that's one thing we're going to do in August. The second one is then come back to you with two things, hopefully a updated recommended contract with Hexagon or revisions to the contract with Hexagon that we can present to you in more detail and get your feedback on. Again, the ultimate goal is to bring down costs and minimize impact if other agencies leave. And then the third thing, actually, there's four things. So the third thing is we are looking to take on some additional responsibilities, which we'll actually talk, that's 6E. We'll talk about that in more detail. Proposal to assume responsibilities for legacy RMS. So we're going to come to you with the official approval for that. And then the fourth item, for some reason I'm drawing a blank on my fourth item. Think of it in a second. There's a fourth item that we need to come back to you guys. The agreements. Thank you. Thank you, Member France. I don't know what. We will have more information on what happens with IGA and the exit agreements with Addison specifically, and we'll need your approval on those. So thank you very much, France, on those. So that's where we are at the Hexagon contract. We have again approached them to help us minimize the impact as much as possible. They're being very good partners, and we requested something. Put it all on Linda. Linda, no, she did a great job. But really pushed them hard to really give us a solution that really benefited 99% of it. They entertained it, but they came back with options that will help them, but also still benefit us as a consortium, which I think is fair. And we are, Lynn and I are working through that. They just have to get some more approvals from their higher ups to approve those things, and then we'll present it to you. I wish I had more information, but I don't want to present anything without having those things being validated. So, but we feel good about where we are, and hopefully you as well will feel good about that. So before I move on to the next item under discussion, any questions about where we are with the Hexagon contract or negotiations?
Can I ask a question? When are we thinking that you might have something? I mean, presumably before the August meeting that you're talking about.
We definitely before the August meeting. I'm hoping by the end of this month, maybe have a decision or at a minimum, a direction. Right. And Linda, I'll defer to
Yes, I
you.
mean, I
Any
think-
thoughts?
You know, in all fairness to Hexagon, ETSB had a major software win that we did yesterday, so some of that impacted our availability to sit down and do some finalized things while we were waiting for them to go back to their home office and headquarters. So I think now that we're over the hump of that, we should be able to focus on this part and give you something. I don't think we're quite there yet. I think there's a little bit more room to get where I think we should go. So we'll see how close we can get.
I guess I have a, more of a statement than a question. We're gonna continue to get questions from municipalities on where we are with all of this. I know you got some more updates to provide. It might be good to, after this meeting, to have something that you can summarize where we are in these processes. Particularly talking about Hexagon, the contract expires when, modifications hopefully later this summer. And then I'm sure we'll get into some of the assessment updates as well. But I think the more we can provide to the municipalities, the more we're gonna keep them in the loop on where we are.
So, member friends, I would say the memos that we do for ETSB when we have stuff like this, you'd like to see something like that.
Yeah,
So summary, your background summary, budget impact, future impact,
correct.
those kind of things, which we would have to do anyway because we're gonna have to get the ETS board in because there'll be a change order. So I think we can
ETS
easily,
board as well as this board.
because it's the
Yes,
ETSB
yeah.
contract, so
Okay.
we most likely will do that anyway. So, but if there's anything in particular you want to see, maybe some budget projections, I think.
Well, the impact on Addison leaving, is one, is one item. And again, we're gonna cover some other updates verbally today. I just think everything we can to package this up, because I'm assuming there's not a lot of managers watching right now.
Yeah, no. Except for you guys.
Well, and that was my question when I asked about timing, because then even if we could provide a memo prior to well in advance of our meeting, so that way people are at least having an idea of what direction and what kind of numbers we're talking about.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. The only caveat to that is the budget projections. I think we're not there yet because we won't know until after we know where we are with the Hexagon contract, right? So I don't want to send out false numbers in terms of budget projections if we aren't solid on the.
Maybe
I think,
it's
but
estimates.
what I'm thinking, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, it's more estimates maybe at that point than, specific spreadsheet like this, but
Yeah, I mean, if we have the contract ready with the changes, we see those budget projections, that kind of forecast of what it's gonna mean.
Yeah.
And maybe how we move forward if there's others.
Just to make sure, my friends, set your expectations. Are you looking for something immediately after this meeting or?
I would think, yeah, probably because we've had all those meetings.
We may
now.
have to do a few memos.
That might be.
Yeah, maybe
Maybe
one
just an
immediate
update,
update
yeah.
and then after we've talked to Hexagon, we can
Yeah.
then look at the budget numbers and do maybe a
I'm getting
projection.
questions on like where we are with the IGA, and we really haven't clarified that.
Yeah.
Yet either, so it probably is a series of numbers.
We do have the IGA update, so we'll
Yes.
talk a little bit about that. Okay. Any other questions related to Hexagon? Okay, 6B, CAD and RMS RFP update. I'm gonna ask Linda to tag team with me again on this one. So Linda and I have been working with, the previous vendor, Delta Works, who helped us pull together the RFP, for the whole consortium and the Hexagon application, the RMS solution, which turned out to be the Hexagon application. So we are working with them. They have the experience and expertise. Mike Galvin was the consultant who was dedicated to working with us and did a great job on our behalf to help negotiate the Hexagon contract and kind of work through some of the details. So Mike is available now, and we're requesting that he participate on this. And I think, and Linda also believes that it'll help us a lot, right? Because he has the history, he has the relationships with the agencies. So we have a proposal that I think we're fairly comfortable with. It's higher than what I originally expected, but I had conversations with them about that amount. Number one, they're giving us a 15% discount upfront because of our previous relationship, so that brings down the cost. It's been 8 years,
Almost 10.
almost 10 years since. So the number will look similar to what it looked like 10 years ago, but I think that's a good thing considering inflation should be higher. They're doing almost the same work as before. And that work is essentially helping us pull together the RFP scope, but that entails working with all agencies to identify their requirements, document those requirements and the form of an RFP, and then work with the vendors once we bring them in and we make a selection to set up demos, to kind of get things answered, potentially help us negotiate the final contract. I think they have the experience and expertise because they've worked with a lot of these RMS and CAD companies. So they have a lot of inside knowledge that we don't have and some expertise that we may not have as well. So we believe that we need to have them come and participate in this process to make sure that we do it right and we select the best solutions, either one solution for both CAD and RMS or two separate solutions, but the best solutions for both RMS and CAD for us moving forward. But we need to have them come in and do it. Our current schedule, we're still on schedule for September to issue the RFP and start that process, but we'll need approval from this board in August for us to move forward. So, Linda, I don't know if there's anything you'd like to add.
I think Delta Works has a really strong reputation with our users. Mike Galvin facilitated not only development of the scope of work, but through the demos. And, as you know, we're a large organization with a lot of feedback. So the demos, that we did, and, Jan Barbeau was there. So people who were involved in this process the first time, there were demos with 25 people. The core group on this project, the first time, was over 25 people for RMS and CAD, and because we had several more dispatch centers than we have today. And so he's very good at facilitating consensus-based evaluation, which is our preference on these bids, so that everybody's coming to the same understanding in the room. It's not you voting, and then there's winners and losers. It's everybody in the room, and there's better discussion that way. The other thing that was really instrumental with Delta Works is, as Anthony said, is because this is their niche of what they do, they're very strong in the in this industry. So when we did the restatement of this contract, we brought them in because we had a little bit of money in our Delta Works contract on the ETSB side. And they were like, this is too high, this is too high, this is too high. And so we saved some money with them. So there's there's a lot of benefit. These contracts that we've done with them are not to exceed amounts, and they're in phases. So what we did in the last portion was there's phase one, and there's there's money built into those sections, so we may not use all of that. And then you would approve the next phases if you want to continue with Delta Works or not. So you have a little bit of wiggle room, leverage, you know, if you don't feel it's going well, if you do feel it's going well. The other thing that's very different from the last time we did this is the RMS side has a much more developed group. You know, when we did this the first time, it was just Dave Jordan. You have Anthony, you have Don Enhart, and he has a staff. You have, this group is now formed. This group was not formed before. And you have a police executive group with 3 very strong chiefs who have been leading this, and the users group. So we're a lot more formed on this side, where getting through some of the scope of work and the conversations and things like that are going to be a little more simplified on that side than they were the first time we did this, because none of this was in place. You know, Don's got a great relationship with the users, and the chiefs are more actively involved. So I think that where they may have built in, and we had this conversation with them where, you know, they've seen us, they know we're complex, so they've built in the hours. I don't think you're gonna meet a lot of those hours, because you have people on the ground here who can do a lot of that legwork, but they've built it in as that. So and the other thing is, it's just very nice to have a subjective party facilitating the evaluation of those contracts with the users as they're making selections, because we did, for those of you who weren't here, involved demos of CAD and RMS. There were scenarios that they had to run their products through, every vendor that was competing. And so it was very involved. And so having that third party come to the group to evaluate, I think, was very instrumental in keeping it on point and subjective, or objective, not subjective, objective, but it's after lunch. So, and keeping it on track that way, and also keeping it on track. And Mike Galvin is a very organized person. You're paying for him to be here, but if he doesn't need to be here, he's not gonna be here, you know, and especially with Zoom and stuff now, you know, when you have phone calls with him, it's like 15 minutes, you know, he'll run through his stuff, when you make decisions and you move on. So I feel like, especially using them again, because they know us and they know what's happened before, and they understand the environment. It's a good decision, especially with how complex this has come on the RMS side. And had we known then what we know now, you know, so that's a long answer to your, do you have anything else?
Yeah, that's exactly what we need.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, this is the first I'm hearing of us doing an RFP for CAD. I thought most parties are satisfied with Hexagon as a product. Why do we wanna tie both of those processes together?
So you've had CAD. I don't know that anybody wants to get away from CAD at this point. I think, though, when you do an RFP together, you also push Hexagon to be more cost effective in their bid for that. Because at the point you're going to be doing this, we will take CAD all the way to 2027. But if you do your bid now, and for some reason, and I hope that the 2 PSAP directors decide, and that group decides they want to move on to something else, it will take us all of from now to 2027 to move to something else. The fact that we have all of these integrations set up now, I don't know that anybody's in a hurry to move, but I think it's due diligence to take a look. We'll build this RFP for both, but be very clear that they can be separate contracts. And actually, we would recommend, I think the state's attorney would recommend that this time around, because there's, at least right now, money in the RMS side for capital, that they would end up being separate contracts when we move forward. So we may not do anything but take a look on the CAD side, but I think, you know, when you've been with somebody for over 10 years, it's time to kind of take a look. And I don't think it hurts anything and you have 2 new directors too at the PSAPs who haven't had a chance to weigh in on anything, so.
Have they weighed in on going through this RFP process?
Yes. And they actually are in favor of it, because I said, are you sure? Because I'm happy to not have to do as much work as I did before, I don't, you know.
And it obviously increases the cost of Delta Works.
Yes.
By doing this. But if it's the right time to do it, then it's good to be ahead of the game, I guess.
I mean, we certainly can, you know, the other thing too is I think if you do it in joint, you're gonna see where they're at and they'll make a decision, they'll be comfortable with the decision. And it's good for them to see what's out there in a demo type of environment, in a more competitive environment, I think.
And it wouldn't be perceived as favoring Hexagon necessarily if you word in a way that you could just bid on one or the other or both.
No, I think if I understand, yes, I think if I
If you
understand.
separate them out. Yep.
Right, I mean, it's
We
not
wanna get
uncommon.
as much competition as we can here with this process.
Mhm. Yeah, because you may have vendors who have both products who decide only to bid on RMS or CAT.
Right.
I mean, because we are very complex, and so, depending on how you write this and what integrations you want to include going forward, there really are maybe a half a dozen top tier vendors who can do this on the CAD side and on the RMS side. So, I mean, we've done this, we've seen this with network too. We send out 60 bids and you get 2 back, because who's large enough to do this.
And you'll share this with ETSB next month then too?
It's been talked about.
Has been, I missed it.
Probably
I missed it.
focused on radios, might be focused on radios.
Can I just ask a question about the Delta Works proposal? Do they set out a time frame on like,
They do.
okay?
They fit
Because that might
phases.
be helpful to share with both municipalities, agencies, so they know that this is real,
So let me take that back. They didn't actually put dates in there. They just put phases, right? And what is involved in those phases.
I didn't hear your question.
Well, so I was
You started
wondering,
answering
if the Delta Works proposal, if they actually show a time frame of, step 1 will take place between September, just so that way the municipalities can see progress
Dates
and
are
what's
in-
expected.
They might have time periods like 3 weeks, but I don't know that we have dates yet because we haven't executed a contract, so we
Well, I mean,
can
just
line that out once we get the contract going.
Just an approximate. I think that might be helpful, just so people can see what the schedule will look like, and so they'll know when decisions would be made.
We can ask them to do that. It's not in here. They show the number of tasks that are involved and then the cost for those tasks. They don't show actual timeframes. But I'm sure we can ask them to estimate the time.
I just thought, like,
Yeah. That makes sense. Before we move off of this topic, the last thing I want to mention to the committee is that this is going to be a cost to the committee. The committee really wanted to move forward with our RFP process. Again, we think Delta Works is the right organization to go with. We have to pay for this, right? So we're going to request that the committee uses the equipment replacement fund to cover this cost instead of charging the agencies directly.
50% of the cost and ETSB picks up the CAD side.
They will, they will. So, yeah, they've separated those costs out. We know what the RMS costs are versus the CAD costs, and ETSB, they will cover the CAD. So this committee will only be responsible for it. So I just wanted you all to be aware of that there is a cost involved for us to move forward. We have to ask for those funds to start in September, so we're gonna ask in August to take money from the equipment replacement fund to cover.
Well, with all those stakeholder meetings, it appears that people want to move forward with this.
They're the
So
ones pushing us,
Yes.
right? So,
we need the resources to do it,
okay,
but continue to try to lower those costs as much as possible.
good. All right, that's it, unless there are any additional questions on the CAD RMS RP. Okay. All right, thank you. So moving on to the IGA update, we don't have as much to provide here in terms of content, but we wanted to say that we realize that we've already exercised the option in the agreement that says that there's an automatic renewal. So we're going to take advantage of the automatic renewal and renewal for 1 year. And during that period, try to do a couple of things. One, we are either, and I'll defer to the assistant state attorney to give me clarification on this. Either we're going to revise the existing IGA or create a memorandum of understanding to add in language that helps us, basically pay our bills and cover some of the costs that we need to cover. So that the essential things that was in the new IGA, we're gonna take that stuff out and make sure it's either in the current IGA as an update or a memorandum of understanding. So we want you to be aware of that, again, we're gonna exercise the automatic renewal so that the agencies don't have to do anything. That gives us time to do all the things that we're trying to do, renegotiate contracts with Hexagon, issue RFP, complete the upgrade of the software. So the agencies will have something to look and really compare apples to apples with. And then hopefully by this time next year, all of that will be completed, and then we can really have a sincere discussion about how we move forward. We'll know who we selected as a new RMS vendor, the RFP process. We'll have hopefully the upgrade completed, or we'll be very close to it, and they still can kind of compare the current application to some of the other applications that they're looking at. And then we'll have what we think is the right language for an IGA for us to move forward, make it consistent. So,
And just to tag team on what you were saying, Anthony, I think that we would prefer to do, and from, I think what the members want, they don't want a brand new IGA. We would amend the current one to reflect whatever terms are changing once we have something more definitive from Hexagon, because we're not there yet to know what all needs to be changed until we have a definite answer from them.
so to remember France's point earlier, I think that is information that they're looking for. Remember France, I've had some reach out to me to get an update on the IGA. But essentially, I think the big news is that we're gonna just stick with the automatic renewal for now. And work on revising the existing IGA to include the pertinent information that needs to be in.
Sounds good. I'm sorry, can I make one comment? So then clarifying my request, I think what we should probably do is follow up on Attorney Berlin's letter from a few months ago and say, we're exercising the 1-year option. We're finalizing cost projections for calendar year 24-25 with, maybe we don't have those yet, but they'll be forthcoming. We're going to continue to renegotiate a current amendment with Hexagon, forthcoming, and that we are prepared to hire Delta Works to start an RFP process. I think those would cover a lot of what we've heard over the last couple months.
Okay, thank you. We'll do that. Got it. We'll get that out within the next week. Get them in line. Okay, any questions about the idea? I know that was brief, but.
Well, it just has to be brief until we know what the definitive terms are.
Yeah. Thank you. Moving on to 60, the fourth item, so Addison exit agreement. Again, not a lot to update on this one, except for we have started creating an exit agreement. We have not had an opportunity to have direct conversations with Addison about the exit agreement. Originally, we were hoping that Addison would wrap up their implementation with Axon by the end of this month. And if that was the case, we thought we wouldn't really need an exit agreement, right, with them. We realize now that regardless of what happens, to protect ourselves and them, we probably need an exit agreement in place. And if there are other agencies who intend to leave for whatever reason, now next year, we should probably have that agreement in place, and it's just a template that we use for all agencies moving forward. So I am working with the Assistant State Attorney to finalize that, to have a conversation with Addison. I've had conversations with Chief Selvig, specifically have reached out to Joe to Moranowitz to talk with him about some of the details and to get that process started. But after this discussion, we will move it forward. And the goal is to have a agreement in place with them. They've let us know yesterday unofficially, so not in writing, but verbally, that they are on track to leave the consortium and implement Axon on July 8th. So the goal is to have the agreement in place before they leave on July 8th. So just if you want to add anything.
No, I don't think there's anything. I mean, obviously, we were waiting for them to let us know what they're gonna need or how long they're gonna need to be in the system.
Questions, concerns, thoughts? Okay, that's all we have on that one. Next item, the proposal to assume responsibilities for legacy RMS. This is an item that we recently discussed internally. So we are, for those of you who don't know, DuPage County is on a 40-year-old mainframe application. But we are proud to say that we are nearing an end to that. We are sunsetting our mainframe at the end of this year. So a lot of applications that have been solid for years, for previous years, are now moving off to other places. That includes some of our CJIS application, our warrants application, and some of the other things. So we think because of that, there's another group that supports those applications, and it's the IT department's applications services team. We think a better place for those applications would be RMS, right? One's net RMS makes all the sense. It's the form of data for RMS. And then CJIS really corresponds with what we do on the RMS side versus application services. We think it's a clean split. It makes sense to do it. We have a proposal that we will submit formally to you to review. There's a small revenue source that will come with it. We just have to get clarification that we're not violating any CJIS laws by moving it from where it is now to move to under RMS. It's a very small amount, $13,000 to $15,000 a year, I think, right? And no,
I think it's closer to 24.
Oh, 24,000. Okay, so, but still not huge in the grand scheme of things, but it is a funding source, right, that we get from CJIS. So we're gonna move the responsibility over. Don and his team will take these the management of these two applications on, and we get a small amount of revenue to support that. So, wanted to introduce the idea to you all, to get your thoughts. We think it makes sense, but we need the Oversight Committee to make it official and for FY 2025. So not this year, but FY 2025. Starting December 1st is when this would happen.
December 1st, 2025.
Of 2024.
Okay.
Yeah, our fiscal year starts December 1. Yeah, so that's when it would officially start because it's part of our budget process. Any questions about that one? Like that one straightforward. Don, and did I miss anything? We covered everything.
Well, I think it makes sense because all of that legacy data would be used by primarily this group or those who are still in a consortium. And then, you have a few outliers like Bartlett, but I think it makes sense to house it all together. Your county IT department's already doing the work, so you're just moving it over. And then that little bit of revenue will help offset the exit of Addison too.
Where's the revenue come from?
That I'm not sure. Where does the CJIS revenue come from?
It's a build out quarterly, but it's people basically sign up for either a subscription or they do per transaction.
Is there any danger of people saying they don't want the subscription anymore? If you're gonna move it?
I mean, ultimately on the front end, it's not going to change for them. I mean, they could say they don't want the subscription, but nothing changes. They would still access it the same way as they do.
Who has the subscriptions?
I'm sorry.
Who has the subscription?
What agencies have?
There are quite a few agencies. If you want to list them, we have
Municipalities. for the most part.
municipalities, there's,
Townships. Okay. That's all we have for discussions. Jeremy?
That was good.
Okay.
Can I ask another question on that?
Sure.
Where did the money go before that?
It supplemented the IT budget, the general fund budget. So we will be impacted by it, but I'm prepared to move some things around to cover the general budget.
Right. Before we move on to the old
It's
business,
essentially the stuff that will, be reclaimed with mainframe is where I'm thinking I'll be able to balance it out, right?
Okay.
We won't pay for mainframe stuff and that'll cover that money that we move to RMS. But Jennifer is a call, so we're making sure that, you know, it makes sense.
all right, any other questions with regard to these discussion items?
I have one that's sort of related. You might have covered this. I know I walked in a minute late. So the upgrade on RMS, about a 3-month process. I think I heard it's one of these meetings.
The upgrade RMS?
Yeah,
No. You mean MFR?
yeah, the on-call 10.
Yeah, that's 18-month implementation.
Maybe it's starting at 3 months. That's what it was, starting September 1st. Is that what we're planning to do?
No, the RFP starts September 1st. So the implementation for the upgrade is already started. So it's already in, but we projected from January 1st of this year through mid-year of 2025 is
Okay.
how long it would take for us to complete it. And we're really still on track with that. Our ability to move forward was contingent on NPS being implemented. It's done, so same folks who are working on that now can help focus on this. So we'll know after, I think, Don's gonna meet with the project manager from Hexagon to talk about now that NPS is completed, let's focus on the MFR and OCR 10 upgrade. So we'll have a better understanding if we can eliminate, or no, if we can change the schedule so that we do it in a more expeditious fashion instead of the you know, the longer implementation.
Yeah.
We don't know for sure if we can do it right way, but they are gonna look at it and see how they can cut some steps out here or there potentially that won't have a negative impact when we go live. My hope is that we complete it in spring, gives us a couple of months of, you know, taking a look at it before we make a decision on the ITA. I would like for that to happen.
That might be something else to include in a future letter when you have things.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
now,
Maybe we'll include that too, but that is a lot of information.
A lot of information.
So,
All right, any old business? I don't know what we've just been through.
It's
New
all old.
business? New business? Have some?
No, that's fine. Never mind.
Don't hold back.
No.
All right, then we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'm sorry, I do have, I guess, some business. Do we talk about it from the table?
That was what I was.
Oh.
That was what I was gonna say, but I didn't know if I should.
Put that up.
That's, no, he just tendered, Dave Fieldman just tendered his resignation. I believe it was effective.
This morning, I believe.
Yeah. And then I think, yeah, at least Betsy to fill maybe another, DMMC is the one that appoints those folks and they're aware of it and we'll.
They are.
Towards filling those 2 seats. And if we're gonna have a meeting in the next month or so, obviously we'd love to have those seats filled sooner rather than later.
Pursuant to our bylaws as well, I'm pretty sure at such time we have to elect a vice chair. It has to be from a non-county seat
Right.
at that point too, so we'd probably have to do that. in
So
August.
we should do that in August. They're
Yes,
appointed
correct.
by that.
And my retirement's coming up.
I know.
yeah, so that's gonna say-
You're through the end of August, correct?
So 3 seats.
Yeah, that total increase.
You don't even
It
look at
makes you senior.
All right, so we'll make sure that that's on the agenda for August as well. Thank you.
Or can we do it even before then if we're gonna have a special meeting to cover these other things?
Well, August is a
I
special.
think August.
Oh, August is a special meeting.
Yeah, the regular meeting is September.
And we'll double check. I think we elect the vice chair. I don't think it's DMMC that chooses it.
I'll have to check.
Yeah, I don't remember.
But in any event, we should
Yeah.
make sure it needs to be on the agenda in August.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Now is our motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right. We are adjourned. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.